OpenAI's own president says GPT 5.5 thinks faster and needs fewer tokens than GPT 5.4, comparing GPT 5.5 and GPT 5.4. But GPT 5.5 also costs exactly double per token on every line of the pricing page. And on the one independent leaderboard that measured both models the same way, it ties or loses 4 of the 5 tests that matter most. Price, coding benchmarks, context, and output limits, and deployment all get checked against the model documentation instead of the blog posts ranking them. Test 1 is pricing. If you're running a coding agent or batch processing thousands of calls a month, this test hits your bill directly, and getting it wrong burns budget for 0 extra output. GPT 5.4 charges $2.50 per million input tokens, $15 per million output tokens, and 25 cents for cached input. GPT 5.5 charges $5, $30, and 50 cents for those same 3 categories, exactly double on every single line. OpenAI's president, Greg Brockman, has claimed GPT 5.5 makes up some of that price gap by working more efficiently per task. A claim test 3 checks directly. OpenAI hasn't published a verified percentage backing it, so treat it as vendor talk, not a number you can bank on yet. On the numbers we can verify, GPT 5.4 wins test 1. That's 1 for GPT 5.4, 0 for GPT 5.5. Drop a comment if that price jump matches what you've seen on your own OpenAI invoice. But a price tag alone doesn't tell you whether the pricier model actually codes better. And that's next. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Test 2 is coding benchmarks. Pick the weaker coding model for your agent, and you'll spend the week reviewing broken pull requests instead of shipping. The newer model doesn't automatically code better just because it's newer, and this benchmark checks that assumption directly. Scale AI runs an independent public leaderboard for SWE Bench Pro, which isn't run by OpenAI or Anthropic. On that leaderboard, GPT 5.4, running at its highest reasoning setting, scores 59.1%. GPT 5.5's reported score on the same benchmark comes in at 58.6%. That's close enough to Scale's own margin of error that calling it a clean win for either model would be dishonest. Claude Opus 4.6 trails, both at 51.9% for context. Test 2 is a tie, leaning very slightly toward GPT 5.4 on the one leaderboard that checked both models head-to-head. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. The scoreboard holds at 1 to 0. GPT 5.5 also posts 82.7% on a separate benchmark, Terminal Bench 2.0. But OpenAI never published a matching GPT 5.4 score to compare it against. A near tie on benchmark score still leaves the question of which model runs faster and cheaper, and that's where GPT 5.5 gets its shot. Test 3 is reasoning speed. Build a real-time agent on the slower model, and every extra second per call adds up into a product that feels sluggish next to a competitor's. This is the test where GPT 5.5 finally gets to make its case. Brockman told TechCrunch that GPT 5.5 is a faster, sharper thinker that needs fewer tokens than GPT 5.4 to get the same job done. Fewer tokens for the same job means less time waiting, and a smaller bill than the raw per-token price suggests on its own. Again, that's a vendor's claim, not an independently measured percentage, so hold on to some skepticism. But it's also the most plausible argument yet for paying double per token. Test 3 goes to GPT 5.5. The scoreboard is tied, 1 to 1. Being efficient means nothing, though, if the ceiling you're building against never actually moved. And that's exactly what Test 4 checks. Stick with me, because the last 4 tests are where this decision actually flips. Test 4 is context and output limits. Upgrade specifically to feed a bigger codebase or a longer document into the model. Find out mid-project that the ceiling never actually moved and you've paid double for nothing. Both official model reference pages list identical numbers. GPT 5.4 and GPT 5.5 both show a context window of 1,050,000 tokens, and both cap output at 128,000 tokens. Both models even apply the exact same long context surcharge, past 272,000 tokens. Test 4 is a flat tie. A handful of comparison sites and blogs claim GPT 5.5 ships with a bigger context window than GPT 5.4. But that claim doesn't hold up against OpenAI's own documentation for either model. The scoreboard stays at 1-to-1, and the final test decides something more basic than any benchmark, whether you can even get your hands on the model in the first place. Test 5 is deployment and modality. GPT 5.4's Thinking and Pro tiers reached paid users March 5, 2026, with free tier Mini and API-only Nano following 12 days later. GPT 5.5's Thinking and Pro tiers launched April 23rd, and Instant reached the free tier 12 days after that, on May 5th, the same rollout pace as GPT 5.4. The one real gap is API access. GPT 5.5 opened its API the day after launch, while GPT 5.4's API-only Nano waited the full 12 days alongside Mini. On modality, both models' documentation lists text and image as the only supported inputs, and text as the only output, even though GPT 5.5 gets marketed elsewhere as handling audio and video too. That claim isn't backed by the model card. GPT 5.5 does pick up two real advantages beyond the faster API access: a knowledge cutoff 3 months newer and a dedicated GPT 5.5 cyber variant that scored 71.4% on the UK AI Security Institute's expert cyber tasks. Weigh that against GPT 5.4, not overselling what it can do, and Test 5 is a tie. Get excited about a model your plan can't access yet, or build around a feature the marketing implies, but the model card never promises, and you'll waste a launch cycle. Final scoreboard: 1 win for GPT 5.4, 1 win for GPT 5.5, and 3 ties. Here's where each model actually earned its wins. GPT 5.4 took pricing outright, held its ground on the one independently measured coding benchmark, and kept its modality claims honest. GPT 5.5 took reasoning speed on Brockman's word, ships a genuinely newer knowledge cutoff, got developers into its API a day after launch, and adds a dedicated cybersecurity variant, but its marketing oversells context and modality, claims the model card doesn't back up. If cost per token and proven coding performance are what you're optimizing for, pick GPT 5.4. You get the same coding ceiling and the same context and output limits at exactly half the price. If your workload is heavily agentic and high volume, where every token saved compounds across thousands of calls, GPT 5.5's efficiency claim might be worth the premium. The overall default pick is GPT 5.4, for one decisive reason. On the single benchmark that measured both models the same independent way, it isn't behind, and it costs half as much to run. Here's one thing the docs don't spell out. OpenAI's launch materials for GPT 5.5 pushed a 60% hallucination reduction number that spread across nearly every recap and comparison video. The more carefully sourced system card level reporting only backs a 23% improvement in claim level accuracy and 3% fewer factual errors in real ChatGPT conversations, a much smaller and narrower result. OpenAI's own developer community and independent reporting have both flagged that the 60% figure doesn't match what the fine print actually measures. If you want to see where GPT 5.5 actually lands against its real rival, watch the GPT 5.5 versus Claude Opus 4.6 comparison next. It runs the same independent leaderboard treatment against the model already circulating as GPT 5.5's toughest rival in independent comparisons.